Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Chooseday, where we have our next Chooseday guest. We have the incredible Patrick O'Callaghan from Conservation Volunteers Australia, and we have Marty also in the office joining us. And everyone, I just want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet and their elders and their leaders, past, present, and emerging. And gosh, got a great day, great event for you in a context which is super timely. We've had floods up and down the country. I was in Sydney on the weekend and Bondi Beach was just Bondi. There was absolutely no beach. The water was crashing right onto the foreshore. So a lot of people with eco-anxiety, a lot of people worried, 2/3 of Australians worried about the environment and what we can do about it, and fantastically fortunate that CVA has been around for 40 years, helping Australia and Australians preserve incredible environment. So I want to jump straight in and welcome Patrick to our Tuesday event where people are choosing to learn more about CVA, about the environment and what we can all do to assist. Patrick, tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Ash. Hi, Marty. Hi, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. A bit about myself. Gosh, I've been with CVA for coming up to 13, 14 years now, I guess. So I've had a long association with the organisation, and most of that has been in establishing threatened species programs around the country. So everything from turtles in Broome to bandicoots in Melbourne and everything in between, tree kangaroos up in the far north. And more recently, I've come on to look after the partnerships and positioning team. So a small group of people that deal with all of our wonderful corporate partners and other supporters. And yeah, it's terrific. It's a great organisation to be part of, definitely.
Fantastic. And where are you dialing in from? That just looks exquisite. What a day.
Yeah, this is the best fake backdrop ever, right? No, it's not fake at all. It's not fake. It's dead set real. I'm up in the Wimmera, up in Victoria's Wimmera, and I'm sitting about half an hour south of the little regional centre called Nil, which is famous for its mallee fowl and its muesli. Lowen muesli is actually made in Nil. So yeah, a lovely little product. But yeah, this is a gorgeous property. I'm sitting in the Little Desert Nature Lodge Sanctuary, which is a property that actually I go back a long way with Little Desert, and then CVA more recently has now got an operation up here where we're working on some properties that we have in the region, working with the local community, and it's just a gorgeous place. I was saying to Marty before we started that the area that I'm sitting in, or the whole property, is predator proofed. It's got a specially designed fence that runs about, I'm looking at one over there, about 10 foot high. It's got a big wire apron on the top and on the bottom extending out so that things can't dig under it. Things being foxes and cats, of course. They're the things that we're most worried about. But because of that fence and the fact that it gives some security, we call it conservation infrastructure. It's what it is, right? It's the stuff that sets up for the future. And as a result of that, the little beasts that live in here, some of whom occurred naturally and some of which have been brought in for their own security, they're all pretty happy and safe and fox and cat free, which is how the rest of the country should be.
Absolutely, but the flies can get through.
The flies are awesome. Yeah, I'm glad we've got a high-res camera so that we can see every fly buzzing around my face.
You can help. You can contribute and volunteer to swap flies with you.
Totally. Well, it's Australia, right? Come on, we've got to get authentic here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Conservation Volunteers Australia, tell us how have you engaged with the community, I guess, within the context of growing anxiety about the environment, about sustainability, about biodiversity? How have things changed over at CVA over the last decade?
It's a good question. I guess we've always engaged with community around conservation, and conservation itself, I guess, is it's an outpouring of the practical side of that anxiety. Yeah, you're worried about something, so you decide to do something about it, and that's what conservation is. So, although we've been around for 40 years, I guess the first tree that was ever planted in the ground in the first paddock of the first property owner that we worked with, supported by the first partner, that all came around as a result of people realizing that something needed to be done. So, ever since then, pretty much everything we do is engaging people to reduce that anxiety by knowing that some simple actions can make a big difference, especially if lots of people get together and do those small things. They don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be technical. They just need to happen. And every little thing that we do collectively does make that difference. So I suppose it can feel scary if you think you're the only one doing it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're the only one in the suburb planting a shrub or turning your lights off, or, you know, choosing something different at the supermarket. If you think you're the only one doing it, then it can feel a bit daunting. But rest assured, there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who are making these choices every single day, whether it's practical conservation or, as I said, choosing something different at the supermarket. They all make a difference when they add up.
Brilliant. And do you want to just sort of talk about some of your different programs that CVA offers to get into action with your conservation volunteering?
Yeah, sure. And you can imagine it's been a tricky couple of years for an organisation that's built around getting people out of their homes into faraway places, in groups, in close contact, working together cheek by jowl. It's been a tricky couple of years, but there's no doubt that the programs that we offer really, we've still managed to provide that experience and that contribution to conservation. So that our programs fall into, we call them campaigns. So our campaigns fall into five buckets. There's one that focuses on threatened species. That's called Wild Futures, and that's actually where I am right now, is part of that particular campaign. We have a program called Revive, which is all about wetlands, wetland health, beaches, oceans, marine debris, that kind of thing. We have a program called Greener Cities, which, like the name says, is about getting more shade and wildlife and biodiversity into cities where, let's face it, most of us live. I'm so lucky to be up here today. I'm going to have to pinch myself because, believe me, this is not where I live. We have a program called Green Links, which is particularly addressing the issue of connectivity, because as our bushland and forests have been cleared, not just bushland and forests either, but grasslands too, as they've been cleared and modified, then there's no way that the animals that use them can actually travel along those corridors anymore. So the goal of that campaign is to connect them together. We have another one called Future Stewards, which is actually less of an on-ground campaign per se, but it's our methodologies to how we bring people in, how we engage people, so that whole engagement piece over the top. What was the one I'm missing? Greener Cities, Green Links, Revive, Wild Futures, Future Stewards. There you go. There's the five. Got them all. So there's lots of opportunities within those, just depending on the particular subject matter and location that people are interested in to get involved in.
Yeah. And so, Marty, what would you most be drawn to? The beach?
We've talked about this before, Patrick, at another time, the Future Cities, I think it was, and you were saying that something, and tell me if I'm wrong, but something simple that you could do in your backyard or on your balcony or wherever you live, I guess, depending on how much room you have, is plant out a metre squared area. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So this is a sneak preview for everyone on the call, where we haven't formally announced this yet, but we're about to launch in that. No, that's cool. It's awesome. It gives me a chance to practice.
You heard it first.
You heard it first here.
On Tuesdays, this is what we're doing. Cutting edge stuff. I love it.
Exclusives. Yeah, look, our Future Stewards team gave this a thought. With what's something that we can make accessible and doable for anyone and everyone, no matter where you live. As Marty said, whether you live in an apartment that's got a 5th floor balcony, or whether you live out here, what's the common element? And so we're launching an activity that's called Nature Blocks, and we're taking the idea that all it takes is 1 square metre at a time, and if we have enough 1 square metres, we can cover the whole country, and everybody can get to have their own 1 square metre or their own multiple of that. If you want to have 5 square metres, that's great, but we're breaking it down into these bite-sized chunks where, by performing an action and dedicating a square metre of your backyard or your nature strip or your verge, depending on which state you're in, Whatever it is that you can afford to allocate in terms of space, we can put nature back into those places, and that in itself both adds up to give real habitat value, but it also helps us to realize A, how simple it is, B, that we're connected. Our nature blocks are connected. Yeah. So when Ash plants his and I plant mine, we might be cities apart, but there might be wildlife that'll actually make its way from one to the other. So we're providing those stepping stone habitats for all sorts of little things. You know, butterflies that live in your backyard, bees that live in your backyard, birds that will drink nectar from the flowers that you might plant there. So there's a whole range of really tiny things that everyone can do. But if we do it all together, then it makes a really significant impact. So yeah, look out for nature blocks coming to a balcony or backyard near you, folks.
Oh, that is super exciting, and just really sounds really empowering.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea, right? As you said, we want to take the anxiety away from it. There's lots of bad news stories out there. On the radio this morning, IPC report, you know, this is, what do they call it? The file of shame. Well, that's bad, but there is good that can be done and good that has been done, and we want to continue that. There's no doubt that we can reverse some of these challenges.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. And
I do like that it's so simple. It's such a simple thing. As an individual, you can kind of get a bit overwhelmed by wanting to help or wanting to be a part of the bigger picture, but then knowing that it's as simple as, you know, adding some plants to your back garden or your balcony. I love that.
Yeah, that's great. And the cool thing about it too is that if you get down another level, it doesn't just have to be plants. Like you can, here's a story for you. So I love, oops, I've knocked my earpiece out. Excuse me. I love gardening. I'm a big veggie gardener. And so I've got raised beds all over my backyard. And I was having real problems last year with my tomatoes. Right? And my next door neighbor's got beehives, and she's saying, I've got lots of bees. I'm saying, well, they're not making any difference to my tomatoes. What's going on with my tomatoes? So I did some research and I found that the honeybees that lots of people keep now, and we all enjoy honey, they don't actually pollinate tomato plants, because tomato plants need a special type of bee that gets its pollen by banging its head on the flower, okay, which honeybees don't do. So it's only when the pollen is dislodged from the tomato flower that it pollinates, that you then get tomatoes. So, okay, that's fine. That's step one. Step two, Patrick, what are you going to do about it? You're going to go out there and knock every flower? Well, that's kind of silly and not really practical. No, there's a native bee called a blue-banded bee that lives in lots of cities, and it's one of these, they call them buzz pollinators, because they buzz and they knock their head on the flower, right? So these buzz pollinator blue-banded bees are the things that I need. So step three, what do I do to get blue-banded bees hanging out in my backyard pollinating my tomato plants? Well, apparently they don't live in hives. They don't live in the trunks of trees. They live in gravel. They make their nests in gravel, okay? So I look around the backyard, guess what I've got? Nothing of, no gravel. So my first nature block in my backyard is actually a square meter of gravel about 8 inches thick. I put it there, and guess what came along this year? Blue-banded bees. I've got 2 blue-banded bees. They went through, they pollinated my tomatoes. They're happy, I'm happy. I've got my nature block happening. The garden's productive, life's good, right? And that's a story of simplicity. I didn't plant anything. I just put a pile of rocks in a bucket, for crying out loud. And all of a sudden, we've got this synergy going on between me, nature that's supposed to be there, food. It's a sweet story.
That's great.
I love it. Gravel sales are going to go through the roof.
But it just shows that, like, it's simple, yeah? And it's not just about plants, it's about habitat in all of its forms. Put a rock down, put a pile of sticks down, things will live in it, yeah? Nature starts with simple things and kind of builds up from there.
Amazing. So I just quickly want to share conservation volunteers. They are on our GoodCompany platform. We love supporting them, and what's terrific is they're here. They're on all the other corporate sub-sites where people can donate. They can give to a general donation, which is always appreciated, or to the particular projects like Greener Cities. They can make a donation straight towards that, or the Revive project. So this is a really great opportunity to encourage everyone to look through these and learn more about the program, who it's helping, how it works. So you can do a deep dive on all those different programs there. And then CVA have also put up some volunteer opportunities, which is great. So there's Sea to Source. Do you want to just take us through what that is about, Patrick?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Thanks. So Sea to Source is our national marine debris program that sits underneath our Revive campaign. So we have a number of projects within each campaign. And Sea to Source has been running for several years. And what we're doing is we're effectively adopting some significant catchments around the country. And we have those in all states and in most major cities. And by understanding what rubbish is on beaches and shorelines around the place, we can then work our way back upstream and identify what the source is. Yeah. So we want to stop things getting from the source to the sea, but we're doing it by working our way back up. And so by getting people out there doing litter surveys and cleanups, well, cleanup is a practical contribution straight away, right? So we've made a difference. It's something like, I think the average dead turtle that washes up full of plastic has about 14 pieces of plastic in it. Right? So as we're taking out thousands and thousands of kilograms of pieces of plastic from beaches, we're directly making a difference to the potential for wildlife to survive out there. So that's a really positive thing. But the most important thing for us is to be able to identify where that stuff's coming from so we can then work with local communities to change it. You know, whether it's takeaway stuff that gets thrown out or industrial things that end up in the creek or whatever it might be, things come from all over the place, and we all know how bad plastic is for all wildlife, but particularly in aquatic environments because it looks like fish eggs and it's easily eaten and breaks down, etc. So lots of reasons to get rid of it, but we want to not just do the cleanup, we want to stop it getting in the first place. So as part of that project, as part of our Sea to Source project, April 23rd, mark it in your calendars, everybody, is our National Day of Action on Marine Plastics. So there's opportunities there on the website that you can look at where you can sign up and jump on one of our volunteer events. Going to be lots of people out there on beaches all over the place, specifically looking at this marine debris issue and specifically looking to target the plastics that we find there so we can work out how to stop them getting there. We don't want to do this next year. We don't want to do this in 5 years' time. We want to understand enough about where it's coming from that we can stop it. It's kind of the role of any serious cause-based organisation is to do itself out of a job. Yeah, that's our goal. We shouldn't need to be here. Sadly, right now we do, and we'd love you to help us, but we'd love you to help us put ourselves out of work.
Brilliant. Well, that is Saturday, April 23rd. 1, 2, 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
So, mark it in your diary, jump on the site, get a team together, and thank you so much, Patrick. And for all the great work you're doing and your team are doing. And we love you guys and looking forward to seeing the nature blocks, seeing everything else come to life and continuing to support you guys in the important work you're doing.
Thanks so much. And thanks everybody who's on the call, who I know we have a lot of workplace giving that comes through to us, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate all the help we can get because it's not for us, it's for places like this that I'm sitting in that really benefit, and that's what we're all about. Thanks, Ash.
Beauty. Thanks, Marty.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Marty.
Enjoy your afternoon.
Likewise. See you soon.
Watch out for the wildlife.
Will do. No sheep, though.